today I thought I'd do something a little bit different, and I want to talk about gear and tone. And I think that the tutorials, the song lessons, that's always going to be the main focus for this channel, but quite a lot of people have expressed an interest in the gear side of things, and I get a lot of questions about how I use gear, how I get specific sounds. So I thought that from time to time this kind of video might be interesting. Now specifically today I'm going to be talking about delay effects, and I'm going to take you through the basics of how delay works, the kind of controls you commonly get on delay pedals, and then I'm going to show you 5 or 6 of my favorite delay pedals and talk about how I use them. So I hope that sounds okay. Let's get started. So delay is just another word for echo, and for me it's always been one of the most exciting and dramatic guitar effects, and when people ask for a recommendation for a first effects pedal, it's usually delay that I will say, just because it's fun and it's much more interesting than I don't know, a transparent overdrive or a compressor, which in comparison to delay are really boring. And with delay you can lose yourself fiddling around with it for hours, and you can go off into outer space making all these crazy noises. And you might be wondering why this is called delay, and I think that goes back to the origins of this effect when it was achieved using magnetic tape. So basically you would record your original performance, and that would then be delayed and played back a fraction of a second later, and that would sound like an echo. Allow me to whiz through the basic controls you're going to find on most delay pedals, and I think there are 3 basic controls, and they might be called slightly different things depending on which delay pedal you're using, but I'm going to demonstrate this using my Boss digital delay DD3T, which is a great basic first delay pedal. I think I always recommend Boss pedals just as being affordable and versatile, and they always sound good, so you can't really go wrong with the Boss stuff. Let's start with delay time, and this is simply the amount of time between the original signal, the original note, and then hearing the repeat. And you can go from very quick delay times, giving you that kind of slapback sound, through to much longer, spacier sounds. And in the early days of delay, then short delay times would be all that would be available with the technology, but then with digital delay pedals, longer delay times became possible, and now with modern pedals you can get almost infinite delay times, I think. So with this pedal here, I've just got the delay time set all the way anti-clockwise, and you can hear that I play the note and then almost immediately you've got the echo. And then if I turn up that control, you get a longer gap between the original note and the repeat. And on this particular pedal, if I turn it all the way up, that's the maximum delay time that you've got, so it's around about a second, I think, on this pedal. Next we've got the feedback control, sometimes called regeneration or sustain, and this is simply the number of repeats, so it can go from 1 repeat through to almost infinite number of repeats. So with that control all the way down, it's just a single repeat, and then I turn it up and you can hear multiple repeats there. So as soon as you turn up those repeats, you start to get a bit more atmosphere, a bit more spaciness in there, and you can turn that control all the way up, and then you start to get these kind of self-oscillating, out of control kind of sounds, which can be quite exciting. So and then finally you will have some kind of effect level control, and this is just the volume of the delay effect. So you can start with this control all the way down and you won't hear any echo at all, and then you can just gradually blend in that echo effect. So that's around about halfway. And then you could just continue going with that control all the way up until the delay is very prominent. Right, let's get into some of my favourite delay units, some of my favourite ways of using delay. And I want to start with the classic slapback delay. And this takes us right back to the early days of the effect. And I suppose this sound is most associated with rock and roll and with rockabilly. And it's quite easy to achieve on any delay pedal. And you really just want a very quick delay time. So I don't know what it would be in terms of milliseconds. I rarely think in terms of milliseconds when I'm setting up delay time. I just go by feel and go by listening, but you want a quick delay time, so I imagine it's somewhere around that 100 to 200 millisecond mark. And importantly, you just want one repeat. That's your slap back, so you want to set the feedback control all the way down, and you want the delay to be quite prominent as well, so turn that mix control up fairly high too. And I'm going to demonstrate this with my vintage Roland Space Echo, which is actually a real tape delay unit. And this is from the 70s, I think, but it works in more or less the same way as those original 50s units that you hear on Elvis records. And it's really got a lot of character to the sound, this particular unit. And this is the sound that I've got. And you can hear that I've got that very quick slap back sound, just one repeat. One way that I very commonly use delay is on a lead guitar part or a solo, if I want to make it sound a bit more dramatic, a bit more epic, or even if I just want it to blend in a bit more naturally with the track and make it sit a little bit better. So what I've got here, I've got the Boss DD3 once again, and I've got it set up with kind of a medium delay time, 3 or 4 repeats. I've got the delay set quite high, and I think that's a good starting place for any kind of guitar solo. And then you can just use your ears to dial it in a bit further and make it as subtle or as dramatic as you like. Now, as far as the question of should the delays be in time with the track goes, I think sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes not. Very often I don't do that, and I just have the delay time just dialed in by ear, and it just kind of floats with the tempo of the track. But other situations, which we'll come on to later in the video, where it's a good idea to have the delay synced with the track and have it to be an 8th note delay or a 16th note delay or whatever it might be. Talk about time delays then, and this is where you've got your echo in sync with the song or the track you're playing along to, and it could be a quarter note echo or an 8th note echo. Sometimes I do this, sometimes I don't, but it can really work well, and it's a way of making your guitar really sit in the track nicely and make everything feel like it's working together. And you can do this in quite a subtle way where you're just helping the guitar part sit in the track, or you can do it in a very obvious way, and there are some artists and some specific songs where this time delay is a really integral part of the track. So I'm going to demonstrate a few of these ideas. I'm going to use my Line 6 delay modeler pedal. This is the old version of this pedal, and this is another of my favourite delay pedals. I've had this one for years. I understand that they've now come out with a new updated version of it, which I've not tried, but I'm still using this old version here, and it's just such a fun pedal. It sounds great. It's got loads of different delay simulations in it, so it's very versatile, but it's very hands-on. You can get quite experimental because you've got all of these controls to play around with, so it's very easy to get some quite interesting and unusual sounds. And one of the good things about this pedal is there is a tap tempo function on there, so I'm just going to tap that to get this time delay, and I'm just going to play a bit of a song which I did a video on recently. I'm in love with a German film star, and that's one of the best examples I can think of this timed echo, and this song is actually based on a very prominent 8th note echo, and that sounds a bit like this. course you've got players like the Edge, and really his whole style is based around the way that he uses delay, and often it's in this dotted 8th note rhythm, and this just means that when you play a note you've got the delay happening on the dotted 8th note. So if you're thinking of 16th notes as 1 E and the delay is coming on the so you've got that da 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 da, and it just interacts with whatever you're playing rhythmically in a really interesting way, and it's kind of generating extra notes and creating unusual rhythms. So let me just try and give you an example of that kind of a sound. And you can also use that dotted 8th note sound to generate extra notes in a part, and that might sound something like this. Another cool sound that you can get from some delay pedals is modulation, and this is a sound that I associate most with the classic Memory Man pedals. Now I used to have one of these, but for some stupid reason I got rid of it, but it's where you get a kind of chorusy sound, or you can get vibrato or almost a kind of Leslie speaker sound from some of these pedals, and I have actually got a couple of pedals that will do that. So again, the Line 6 pedal is super versatile, that can do these kind of modulation sounds. And also another delay pedal that I really like is the MXR Carbon Copy, and this does a really dark kind of retro sounding delay, and it's also got this modulation button, and that just adds a touch of swirly chorusy goodness to the sound. So let me just give you a quick example of that. Something I love doing with delay pedals is getting a bit experimental, and they really are the best pedals for getting weird and wonderful noises out of. And the best advice I have for you here is just to muck around, experiment until you find something that you like. It's really not about specific settings here, but I am just going to run you through a few of my favourite weirder sounds, and I'm going to do this using the Boss DD6. I've got 2 or 3 of these Boss DD series pedals. They all sound great. They've all got some slightly different functions in there, and I find that the DD6 is particularly good for this more experimental stuff. One interesting sound would be to set the delay time very fast and turn the feedback up, and then you can get these interesting, quite metallic sounds. So something like this. And if you set the delay time just a little bit longer, you can get these kind of sounds. And you can get some cool reverse delay sounds from the DD6 as well. of course there's the classic out of control delay pedal sound where you crank up the feedback, and then you can mess around with the delay time control and you can change the pitch of the chaos. It's something you hear a lot on those early Radiohead records. It's a really cool effect, but for me it's something that's been overused, and there was a point where every single rubbish indie band was using this effect on their records, and it's something I kind of avoid a little bit these days just because it's become so overdone. But it's still a fun sound to play around with, and maybe you can come up with an original way to use this kind of sound. One further cool experimental effect is this glitch sound, which I really love. I was using it a little bit in the piece at the start of this video, and as far as I know this sound is quite unique to the DD6 pedal, and not even the other pedals in the DD range can achieve this effect. And the way it is done is you set the pedal to the hold function and then just momentarily press the pedal as you're playing something, and it creates this kind of infinite glitching sound. It's a super cool effect. And I'm going to save perhaps my favourite trick or tip till last, and that is to try putting your delay in front of your overdrive pedals. And the standard way to order your effects pedals is to put your delay and reverb and that kind of thing at the end of the chain, and the idea is you've got your sound and then you just put that final bit of sheen and polish on top, and that can work, but sometimes that's precisely the problem, and it does sound too polished and too kind of hi-fi sounding. And as soon as you put the delay pedal towards the start of the chain, then suddenly to me it just sounds a bit grungier, it just sounds a bit cooler in many ways. So give that a try, and I guarantee you'll get some interesting results. And the pedal that I'm going to use for this is the final one of my favourites today, the Belle Epoque Deluxe by Catlin Bread. And this has been one of my favourite delay pedals for quite a while, and it's just full of so much character, and it's based on the sound of the Echoplex, which is an early tape delay unit. I think it's actually got the preamp circuitry built into it as well, so as well as the delay effect, it thickens your tone up nicely. And it's also got several different modes, so it doesn't just do the Echoplex thing, it's got some modulation and vibrato and that kind of thing in there as well. That's about it for this video. If you want a delay pedal recommendation, then I would heartily recommend any of these delay pedals. And I did incidentally buy all of these pedals with my own money. I'm not advertising any of these pedals or anything like that. You can't ever go wrong with one of the Boss pedals, one of the DD series pedals. I think they're affordable, they sound great. If you want something with a bit more character and more of a retro sound, then perhaps the Belle Epoque Deluxe, if you can afford it, or the MXR Carbon Copy. And you might even be able to pick up one of the old Line 6 delay modeler pedals. They're probably going quite cheap these days second hand, and those are just tons of fun and again really versatile. That's it for this video. I hope you found it interesting, and I hope you've got some ideas and some inspiration from this video, and I really want you to try out some of these ideas with your own delay pedal. And remember, it's less about having specific items of gear. You don't need to have the same delay pedals that I've got. I mean, you can get these kind of sounds with just about any delay pedal. and you certainly don't need to use the same settings that I've got and the same settings that some bloke off the internet tells you that you have to use. It's more about using your ears and trusting your own judgment. That's always the best way to go when it comes to getting nice sounds, I think. So experiment and see what happens, have fun, and I'll see you in the next video. And if you have liked this video, let me know and I can do another one along the same lines. I thought I could maybe do a video with reverb pedals or modulation pedals, that kind of thing. So let me know and I can make that happen in the future. Thanks for watching. See you next time.